Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Insight with Oladejo Adeyemi. My name is Oladejo Adeyemi and you know I'm your foremost business coach who designates his time to reading the tax laws so that you don't have to spend as much time doing the same. Today, we are looking at an interesting concept, principal officer, the liability of a manager or principal officer. And you'll see why I said interesting, because the law makes mention of principal officer being liable with respect to assessment, and payment of taxes. And the real question is, who is a principal officer? Interestingly, the Nigeria Tax Administration Act does not define who a principal officer is. But it does say the principal officer shall be liable for such acts as the law may require of the company, whether it is in terms of assessments of the company or payment of taxes. So, as you are taking up roles and responsibilities, you may want to check whether there are inherent liabilities in those roles. And those are the things we are going to be looking at, today. I'd mentioned that the law in itself does not define, who a manager or principal officer is, but the law places this obligation or burden on them. But what are the things we can look at? What are the functions, what are the roles we can look at to ascertain who a principal officer is with respect to tax obligations? So when you're looking at, are you looking at a CFO? Are you looking at a CEO? Are you looking at even a consultant? Is it possible for a consultant, to be the principal officer of a company? Is it by role or by title of a role, or is it by function? To my mind, since the law does not expressly define who a principal officer is, you may want to look at control. Who exercises control on the issue of tax, the issue bordering on taxation of the company. Who has influence, ultimate influence over the reporting, and the payment, assessment or decision, relating to tax. It is important that businesses define these functions clearly so that you do not unduly expose a party who really hasn't taken up such a responsibility. So you may not be a director, but you can be held liable. The way we generally feel that it is only the directors of the companies that are going to be held liable. That liability is defined differently in the tax laws. And we are focusing this episode on this today so that everyone in such capacity, is aware. So we are looking really at the functional interpretation. You're exercising authority over tax reporting. You're exercising control. You have influence. You could be the finance manager. You could be the tax manager. You could be the company secretary. You could be the CFO. You could be the CEO. As long as you are looking at all of this, when we focus on substance over form, the provisions of Section 45 of the Nigeria Tax Administration Act may be interpreted as you being the party that is generally liable over tax matters. So you want to look at your strong internal control around tax compliance and ensure that you have proper approvals and board oversight on who is going to be taking up such functions. The roles are clearly defined. The functions are succinctly mapped out such that parties are not having conflicting interpretation of their roles, such that should anything go wrong, we know precisely who is going to be liable. Unfortunately, we could have been saved all of this hassle where the law has defined who a principal officer is. But this current law does not have it defined. It does specify the liability being on a principal officer or a manager, but does not specify or define expressly who a principal officer is. It is my responsibility to bring these issues to your attention so that we can have a business community that is well educated on what their obligations are, and you can be certain that I'm going to definitely come your way again. But Before then, keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing. Let us achieve the goal together of ensuring that our business community is well educated on their tax and regulatory obligations. Till I come your way again, I remain your foremost business coach who designates his time to reading the tax laws so that you don't have to spend as much time doing the same. Bye for now.